Ms. Harper, if you'll call the roll, please, ma'am.
Representative Reynolds?
Here.
Representative Blackshear? Here. Representative Hall? Here. Representative Bracy? Here. Representative Easterbrook? Representative Gibbons?
Here.
Representative Lamb?
Here.
Representative Lee? Here. Representative McCampbell? Representative Mooney? Representative Sarles? Representative Sells? Representative Underwood? Representative Warren? Here. Representative Witt? Here. 11, you have a quorum.
Thank you, members, for being here. I know it's an extremely busy day, and I know some of you got to leave early, so we'll get started. And Ms. Harper, if you'll call the first bill, please.
House Bill 227 by Representative Bedsole, Firefighters, to limit the post-retirement qualifying period for benefits for certain occupational diseases.
Representative Bedsole, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I come to you today with what I think is a fiscal responsibility bill. I've been before this committee in the past and brought you similar legislation from a different perspective. I've in fact added on some expenses or potentially added on some expenses relative to the same general topic. So today I'm coming back as a commitment to show you as a way of a bit of fiscal responsibility. So to set the stage, I want to tell you kind of where we are. And this is specifically addressing the line of duty death benefit when it comes to firefighters. So that's kind of where I want to start this. And so here's the issue and why I'm here before you. We've had some instances in which that because of language and to no fault, and let me say I've got a group of firefighters here behind me, and many of them I have been engaged in conversation with through this process. As we all try to explore what's best, because it's an issue or problem that was not created by anyone in this room necessarily, but out of a process of trying to do what we can to take care of our first responders, sometimes we create issues in law that creates bigger problems for ourselves. So let me kind of give you the two topics. We all understand the idea of the line of duty death benefit, whether we're talking about law enforcement or firefighters, but in our minds, we can conceptualize the idea of the firefighter who is in a structure fire and the building collapses and we lose a firefighter in the line of duty. That is a very simple concept. That firefighter's family should be entitled to some sort of benefit for their service to our state and to their community. The other concept is where we begin to create some gray area. A few years ago, before I entered into this legislative body, the legislature created the occupational diseases piece of it for both law enforcement and firefighters. Occupational diseases are a little bit harder to understand and wrap your mind around in terms of how should they apply to the line of duty death benefit. Because again, we can all rationalize the firefighter who is killed in the line of duty in a structure fire, but at what point do these line of duty death benefits apply to occupational diseases? Because many of those diseases fester themselves inside of someone over a period of time. So what I am attempting to address here is to place some safeguards. We have had some outlying, and let me say this, individually, if families were able to get a benefit for their loved one who passed away, I am not here to criticize the efforts made to make that happen. But I think from a legislative perspective and fiscal responsibility, we need to create some safeguards. I've got a list here and happy to share it with the committee members at any time. But we have some firefighters, for example, 84 years old, who had been retired for 23 years, qualify for line of duty death benefit. Another one, 83 years old, had been retired for 32 years, received a line of duty death benefit. Another 76 years old, had been retired for 24 years, received a line of duty death benefit. And the list kind of goes on. Our line of duty death benefits have crept up over $150,000 per claim. So what I'm here today with this piece of legislation is to create some guardrails to ensure that this line of duty death benefit, whether it be for our firefighters or law enforcement, that line is solvent so that for generations to come, when men and women stand up to serve their community, to protect us, to service, they will always have this death benefit as an eligible criteria as part of their service. Simply before you, the bill, what it says is scenario number one is if you have a qualifying event while employed, doesn't have to be on the job, while employed. That means, for example, if you have a cardiac event while employed, you go to the doctor and they check you out and says, yes, you had a cardiac event. If you die of a cardiac event any time in your life, Post-retirement, it doesn't matter. If you die, you qualify for a line of duty death benefit because you had a qualifying event while employed. That's scenario one. As the bill is written, scenario two would say we will extend a window of time that is 10 years past retirement. So no qualifying event while employed, but in 10 years of retirement in that window, let's say you have a heart attack and pass away, because of the presumptive language in the law, we can reasonably assume that heart attack was caused from your line of duty service. You will receive a line of duty death benefit for that, or at least eligibility. And then the last scenario, you've had no qualifying event while employed. Nothing occurred within that 10-year window. And then you have a heart attack after that 10-year window. As the bill is written currently, you would not be eligible for line of duty death benefits. The idea in the mind frame I want the committee to understand is we're trying to get back to the core of a line of duty death benefit while recognizing the real and present danger of the occupational diseases, but while trying to avoid this from becoming a life insurance policy. I believe, Mr. Chairman, one of the committee members, after a lot of dialogue with many of these gentlemen behind me, a compromise is going to take the language that's in the bill now where it caps it at 10 years. We're going to move that to 15 years, and along with it, about 3 years ago, I carried a bill that gave them that 10-year cancer death benefit. We're also going to move that to 15. So that means we'd be uniform across the board. The line of duty death benefits would have a window that it would extend to 15 years after retirement. I think that's more than fair to provide eligibility for coverage to our men and women who serve all of us in the fire service.
Okay, committee, if you would hold questions, let's go ahead and adopt the amendment. Go ahead and talk about your amendment.
Yes, sir. Representative Underwood has the amendment. I'll defer to you if you would like to explain
Representative
further.
Underwood?
And I think everyone has copies in their packets. It's a 2-page amendment and basically does exactly what Representative said. It moves everything from a 10-year to a 15-year. You do notice on page where it says replace line 38 on page 2, the second part of there adds the benefit of cancer to it as well. So that it did expand into that. The other items to note on there is where it takes it to the 15-year category, page 5, line 127, and also line 133, line 224. All these is where it takes it from the 10-year to the 15-year, and that's the amendment that we're submitting.
Okay, just extend to 15 years. Any committee
And adds the
members have a
cancer.
question, Ms. Hall?
Yes, ma'am. It is, on our line numbers, is line number 11 on the first page. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I apologize for going through too fast.
Any other questions on the amendment? I do have a question. I should know the answer to this, but it's been a while. So when you say a qualifying event related to the cancer, so is that if they fill out an exposure risk during their line of duty, is that a qualifying event? Exposed to some type hazardous chemical?
So there's, I guess I want to make sure I understand which area, because qualifying event could be heart or lung. Those are the two areas in which that we have the occupational diseases. But cancer is already a presumptive illness in terms of that if you contract cancer and ultimately pass away, it is presumed that it occurred in the line of duty of your service. So cancer will be a little bit different. The language in which I use the qualifying illness for heart and lung, there would be a documented case where you visited your physician for some cardiac issues or some lung issues, and you have documentation that while you were in line of service, you contracted some sort of cardiac issue or a lung issue, as the case may be.
Very good. Any other questions by the committee? Do I have a motion? Yes. Motion, second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the amendment is accepted, and we'll now move into the public hearing. If you would, we've got 4 people signed up to speak. Would like to hold those comments to about 3 minutes or so. And the first one up on the proponents will be Steve McGeese.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. House Bill 227, in my opinion, will actually enhance the line of duty death statute. There is no language that states that any retiree gets any benefit once they leave service. In section 1143-144 that governs this benefit, it refers to a firefighter as a person employed as a firefighter by a city. Once you're retired, you are no longer employed. There has been, in my opinion and some others, liberal interpretation from those that accept these applications, and over the years, that person has changed and sort of the guidelines have changed. So those benefits have been allowed to happen. A lot of y'all may know I've been coming down to this building for 14 years now. I've heard many comments regarding the presumptive language that's in this bill, or excuse me, that's in the statute. There are some that would like to remove that presumptive language. I don't want to see that happen. I don't think any of these gentlemen behind me want to see that happen. There is a loophole that has been used over the years that has resulted in probably over $4 million worth of line of duty death benefits to people that have been retired 20 plus years. That's not what the intent was. Myself, Representative Bedsole, we're not trying to hurt anybody by doing this legislation. We're actually trying to enhance and put in writing the guidelines that will be followed for years to come. One thing that was not mentioned, 227 will actually add in firefighters that are employed by fire districts, because currently they're not listed. And if somebody that reviews these applications follows the letter of the law, and a firefighter with a fire district has a heart attack and dies, he's not going to get the benefit. So this adds in, it enhances the statute that's there. And I think it's physically responsible. It will hopefully squell some of the concerns, comments about removing the presumptive language. So 20 years, 40 years down the road, this program is still available. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up for opponents is Evan Brooks, Birmingham Firefighter Local 117.
Thank you, Chairman, Committee. My name is Evan Brooks, here on behalf of Birmingham Firefighters Local 117. It's going to be the largest local in the state of Alabama, and we do represent the largest fire department in the state of Alabama. Now, I understand that there's been some points about maybe some excess usage of these death benefits. However, setting arbitrary numbers such as 10 or 15 years now is based off no evidence. Hypertension and sleep deprivation are huge issues with fire service members. And oftentimes they lie dormant for 10 to 12 years before it's an issue. So imagine having a firefighter who is hired on at 18 years old and gets to retire at 20 years at the age of 38. Those issues will lie dormant and may not even be represented until, the firefighter is 55 years old. Well, he's no longer eligible for those benefits, right? Furthermore, a qualifying event, simply getting up in the middle of the night can lead to cardiac issues. And again, hypertension as well is an issue. So a qualifying event is not readily defined in this bill, and therefore leaves a lot of room for interpretation that could be detrimental to firefighters receiving their death benefit. This bill only reduces professional firefighters' death benefit. We're not talking about volunteer firefighters. We're not talking about police officers, right? I understand that there's a budget issue that is trying to be addressed here. However, that's not the responsibility of firefighters who have raised their right hand and taken an oath to serve their community not to be covered. Furthermore, if you have a firefighter, a young firefighter, who agrees to accept the inherent risk that the job requires, but then you tell them, well, by the time you're 45 years old, 50 years old, yeah, we understand that you were getting up in the middle of the night for the past 20 years for 24-hour shifts. We understand that, you were involved in these extremely dangerous IDLH environments with high heat and gases and diseases, and that it's all starting to come together now that you've gotten of, older age, such as, in your 50s. We understand that that was directly caused by your occupation. However, since you didn't have a quote unquote qualifying event where you saw a physician while you were employed, you are not going to be eligible, your family's not going to be eligible for the death benefit. I do think that there should be some safeguards that are applied to this bill, and the examples that the representative gave earlier seem pretty extreme, right? However, setting an arbitrary number based off no evidence at all does not seem to me to be the appropriate way to do it. It does not seem the appropriate way to do it on behalf of Local 117, and so we oppose this.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Next up, Brett Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Brett Reynolds, Huntsville Fire and Rescue. Like most other firefighters, when we initially saw this bill, we were against it. And in communication with Representative Bedsole, he's been very open and given us a lot of dialogue on it. Like I said, the first reaction was, no, where's this coming from? But after looking to Mr. Bledsoe's points in regards to the number of beneficiaries of that line of duty death benefit, and particularly dealing with the occupational disease side of that benefit, we started seeing some of the same trend that he was seeing. And I will openly say that it was some more Huntsville people that had received that benefit. So in looking at that and understanding that anything that has, any piece of legislation down here that has money attached to it is going to be reviewed, is going to be looked at. We agree with this and trying to get ahead of it and putting some real safeguards on it. In regards to numbers, Birmingham has a little shorter retirement frame than the rest of the state. So yes, that does hit at 38. But for the rest of us, at 18 to 40 or 25 years after 18, hiring in at 18, that would put you at about 43 years old. With the amendment, that'll put you covered up to 58. And then pulling some numbers, the average retirement age of a firefighter in the state of Alabama is 58. So with that 15 years of coverage, that would get you to 73. The average age of diagnosis of this stuff, if you're going to catch it on the tail end, is between 55 and 60. But after some conversation with Representative Bledsoe, I think this is a good start at trying to cap this. I think that if in time we see we're missing people, we'll come back and grab those people. Because as Huntsville grows, as the state of Alabama grows, so does that fire service. And the difference between some of the people that have gained from this benefit, even being 30 years retired, some of those firefighters did not run EMS. And that has been a huge change for the fire service in general. The current generation, and 10, 15 plus years forward, is the ones that have carried a lot of the burden of the EMS calls. And that's speaking generally for Huntsville, but across the state it's pretty close to the same. They're the ones that are going to have more relation to this occupational disease side of the bill. So I think that this is important for us to try to safeguard this and keeping an open mind going forward. And like I said, in regards to this only affecting professional firefighters, currently professional firefighters are the only ones that receive the occupational disease line of duty death benefit. Law enforcement does as well. We've been told there's a similar bill being drafted to go ahead and cap law enforcement at that 15-year time frame as well. So with that being said, and keeping an open mind that we can revisit this in the future if we realize that we are missing people. And after going back to that, after looking at the average payouts of these line of duty death benefits, we feel pretty good about the 15-year number at this current time. Now, I would say a buffer there would be somewhere between 17 and 20, but for right now, with the agreement that, hey, we could try to come back and revisit this if we needed to, I think the 15-year will be good, will suffice for now. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, Derek Creel, Birmingham Firefighters, Local 117.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. 2009, I was 19 years old. I was at UAB under a full academic scholarship at their business program, and I was involved in a river rescue. And the fire chief convinced me to come and volunteer for the split volunteer, split career fire service, and that's how I got into the fire service. And in part of that decision-making process, a mentor was talking to me, and he said, if you want to be rich, stay in school. Stay at UAB, become a businessman, work in an office. If you want to help people, and if you find this more satisfying, the fire service is a good way to go. You're not going to get rich here, but it comes with good benefits. There was something of an implied agreement with society and with people at large in our communities and our first responders. You're not going to get rich doing it, but if something happens to you, we're going to take care of you. And one of the things that you have to understand about occupational exposures in our fire service is they have a latency period. These toxins, carcinogens, dust particles, they stay in the human body and they change at a cellular level what's going on inside the human body. But those diseases don't make themselves immediately manifest. In some cases they do, but in some cases they don't. After the tragic events at the World Trade Center, the eyes of the nation went on that event. It was the worst event since Pearl Harbor that happened in this country. And part of that is we started looking at these diseases and these exposures and how they're affecting people that were involved with the first responders. And what they found was a lot of these diseases obviously lie dormant in that latency phase, and they determined that you can't really put a maximum on it because some of these diseases are 30 years in the making, and you see a clear higher instance rate of, this disease or that disease. But for different diseases, they set a minimum latency phase. In other words, we can't say how long it will take to pop up, but if it didn't take at least this long, it probably didn't come from this event. And so if you look, the World Trade Center people that are compensated, they have to qualify beyond that latency phase for the disease that they have. So I ask you to put yourself in this position. Let's say you're in your mid-70s. Your son has been a career firefighter. He is retired. He's in his 50s. Your grandchildren are starting college, getting their driver's license, and graduating school. Your son retired from the fire service, started his own contracting business, whatever the case may be, and he was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis. He's in his mid-50s. And pulmonary fibrosis is a non-cancer disease that has a life expectancy of 3 to 5 years. His extended warranty just expired, and his family's sorry out of luck. Now, people that work with me in the organization that I represent will tell you that I'm a fiscal hawk. I firmly believe in fiscal responsibility. 10 or 15 years it would qualify for within the latency phase for the World Trade Center, all the research that went into that event. I will support an age cap. If you're over 75, you no longer qualify or whatever. But this arbitrary 10 or 15 years cap, frankly, is not when we would expect some of these diseases to occur in the first place. For that reason, I'm opposed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions by committee members? We'll end this public hearing. Yep. Representative Bedsole. Representative Bracey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Bedsole, I have a few questions. What is the responsibility of the local municipalities in this?
Very good question. So that line of duty death benefit is paid out through our state budgets. So other than the mention in the statute currently as written, there is a clause, a paragraph that's in the firefighter line of duty death benefit statute that says unless by preponderance of the evidence the municipality can prove that this was not related to their line of duty service, then the death benefit shall be paid. At the end of the day, the municipalities or the employers are not paying anything related to this line of duty. So what we're finding is they're not becoming involved, as would be my assumption.
Okay. What about insurance companies? Do the municipalities have insurance that they're carrying for longer periods of time to cover situations like this for their employees? How is that being dealt with? I'm just trying to understand some of the responsibility of the cities. Because
So, city to city, county to county, the health insurance benefits are going to be a little bit different as they negotiate them. Typically in retirement, some counties or cities will offer retirees a reduced rate premium as far as health insurance, but as in terms of where we're getting in here, we're talking about more of a life insurance realm. I don't know for retirees from county to county or city to city.
Okay. And I guess I'm just wondering what responsibility do the locals have and how this became like a state-only responsibility, because we're talking about a lot of these departments that's mentioned, they can afford to do more, like the Birminghams and the Huntsvilles. These larger departments can do more for their employees, and it seemed that we're taking on a lot of all of the burden of it. And also I wanted to ask about the qualifying events, because we all know, as we get older, cardiac arrest could be a real thing. I work an office job. I don't know if it's related to that or not, but, it could happen. And, family medical history, it's a lot of things to come into play, but to just assume that a person had a heart attack because of the job that they had. I'm just wondering, how do we get to that point of making these determinations?
I think some of this happened in history before my time here in Montgomery. As a first responder, though, I completely can understand and relate and appreciate the language in the law for these occupational diseases, that there's got to be a tip of the cap, if you will, that inherently by the job that these men and women do or are law enforcement members, that it does wear on them from a cardiac or pulmonary perspective a little bit. But if I can interject real quick, and I think the real dialogue here when we're talking about the responsibility of our local officials is to get serious about the idea of instilling wellness programs within our agencies. Every police and fire agency should adopt some sort of wellness programs. Many of the benefits that are available to them in the wellness programs are already found in their benefits with their policy, say with Blue Cross. You just have to take advantage of them. You have to organize those efforts. Encouraging your men and women to get regular physicals, encouraging your men and women to have blood draws, to be on the guard for such occupational diseases, encouraging your men and women to have good dietary techniques. Those are all hallmarks of a good wellness program. And so where's the payoff for you and I and what we're supposed to do to manage the state funds? The healthier career firefighter, the healthier career law enforcement professional is going to be a healthier retiree. And so these benefits will hopefully not have to be used. And so, I just wanted the committee to know, and Mr. Reynolds and I've had really, really good conversations, because I think we come from this in the heart of the same, and that we want the wellness aspect to be emphasized. What I plan to do going forward is to do a policy analysis of our Southeast states to see how these benefits are paid throughout the Southeast, to see if the state of Alabama is in line in doing it. But along with that, we want to look at how we can instill a better emphasis on the wellness program along the way, so that we reduce our exposure in this area.
Thank you, Representative Blackshear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. I'm trying to read it through the legislation. It may be around the qualifying event, but what about from a grandfathering perspective, if this legislation passed, what about the ones that may be right at that 15-year mark now, and/or the ones that may have 2 or 3 years away from retirement, and the entire time they've been working, they think they're under the premise of the current law. How will all of that be implemented?
Well, look, my advice to anyone, if you're feeling not well from a cardiac or pulmonary perspective, then don't ignore those signs. I would hope if someone's in the line of duty of their service that if they've been having cardiac issues, they've been to their physician and sought out some documented medical help. So I would hope that nothing really changed, Representative Blackshear. I hope that they're not ignoring their health today, regardless if this bill is there or not. So I think if they've been doing that, they simply would qualify under this bill still.
Ms. Hall.
Help me to understand, what is this bill? What evidence do you have that this bill presently is based on?
So we took numbers from the Board of Examiners, who is responsible for paying out these death benefits. And the numbers we're able to get our hands on readily available because of record keeping was a 2018 sample to 2025. And it took a sample, and Ms. Hall, I'll be happy to share with you the full spreadsheet.
I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And that's where we begin to identify, and, Mr. Reynolds even spoke to it, that we have some, this body a few years ago passed a COVID death benefit that was intended for that time in which COVID was prevalent in our community. Those who are line of duty for police and fire, if they had contracted COVID, they could be considered line of duty. On this list, we were shocked to find that somebody who was a retiree actually received a COVID death benefit. He was not serving at a time in which COVID was even known about. And so that's where this underscores the emphasis of this committee or this legislative body to become involved in this. Because while we want to give their just due and the benefits where possible, but we do have a fiscal responsibility. So if we don't set those guardrails, then I'm fearful that this benefit won't be solvent going forward as our budgets continue to evolve. We need to do what we can today to ensure that this is a lasting benefit for our men and women.
If this, what you're proposing had been in effect, you're saying that the data that I have here would be different?
Without knowing what data you're looking at specifically.
I provided her the firefighter list from Huntsville.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. I mean, the individuals that I feel like I know the sheet that's in front of you, they would have been past the 15 years unless any one of them had a qualifying event while in service, and some of them may have. And if they have, there's no problem there. We believe that giving them the eligibility to that benefit for the rest of their life, because we can readily recognize that qualifying event happened during their time of being in service to their community.
Very good. Any other questions? Just a quick comment, and Representative Bracy, back to you. I was involved in that original legislation on both sides, the fire and the police, and we really wanted the state to be involved because a lot of communities could not offer that benefit in this situation, and we wanted it to augment anything that may be existing in that person's life at the time of the event. And I appreciate you clarifying there at the end, because Mr. Creel, going back to your comments, if 9/11 had been in Alabama, that's a qualifying event, so that goes well beyond the 15 years. I think that's an important part to not miss here.
Chairman.
Okay, we will not vote today since we had a public hearing. I appreciate you working with everybody, Representative Russell, like you always do, and we'll pass this to next week.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, everybody. Next bill, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 255 by Representative Pettus, Employees Retirement System in Alabama State Police Tier 2 Plan, members paid for up to 80 hours unused in annual leave over 480 hours per year.
Chairman Pettus. When you can get there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome.
Currently, this is basically for troopers. If you were hired before Leah, this benefit was given to you. And the reason they did this, the 80 hours, is to keep more troopers on the road. That's 2 weeks more each trooper in the state could be on the road. Doing the research, when I first did the bill, I thought it was just Tier 2 troopers that were not getting this. And then after more research, it was determined that if they were to not work for Alabama law enforcement, they would not get it. So what this bill does would give all arresting officers under ALEA the chance to get the 80 hours paid.
Thank you. And you have an amendment?
Yes, there's an amendment. What the amendment does, where it says Alabama Department of Public Safety, it changes to Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency, and it takes out the part about Tier 2.
Okay. We have a motion on the amendment. So moved. Second? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, we've adopted the amendment. Now we're back on the original bill. Any questions, committee, on the bill? Ms. Hall?
Help me understand. You're saying that individuals who were law enforcement officers should have received the amount paid for 80 additional hours. Help me on, is that
What
a year?
they earn, you earn vacation time. This is vacation time.
Okay, all right.
And anything over 480 hours, if you build over that, you have to take it or you lose it. You don't get nothing. So what this does, it let them go to 560, and they would pay at the end of the year, if you still have anything between 480 and 560, they would pay them for. And that way we'd keep the troopers out on the road.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve? Second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? The bill receives a favorable report.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
you
Chairman.
bringing
Thank you,
this. You know how I am about consistency, about benefits.
Way everybody will have it.
Our state employees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next bill, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 465 by Representative Stubbs, Alabama Emergency Management Agency, authorized to spend public funds on promotional materials.
Representative Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is House Bill 465. This was brought to my attention by Director Smitherman and his staff with regards to some of the efforts made to increase awareness on emergency management efforts throughout the state and preparedness for the citizens of Alabama. Under current law, they are not authorized to expend the funds that we allocate on educational and promotional material to do seminars and events throughout the state to make people aware of the services that they offer and how people can prepare for weather events. This bill simply amends that code section, which allows and authorizes them, and you'll see on line 64 through 69, it adds this statement that allows them to use the appropriated funds to purchase items that are reasonably necessary to promote the functions assigned to the EMA by this article, including education materials. And this, this bill is something that allows them to help the people of the state on emergency preparation.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions, committee? Make a motion. We have a motion. Second? Second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Bill receives a favorable report. Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Next bill, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 472 by Representative Ingram, state employees travel meal allowance further provided for.
Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, and thank you for having me. This is just a $2 allowance. It just increases the daily meals. This is only pertains to trips that are 6 to 12 hours. It goes up to $14.88. It's about a 15% increase.
Have a motion, second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Bill receives a favorable report.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chairman.
sir.
Thank you, members.
Ms. Harper, to call the chair, I will carry over HB 482, HB 483, and HB 484 at the end of the agenda. So call the next bill.
House Bill 526 by Representative Brown, the Alabama 21st Century Fund, further distribution of funds, one-time appropriation to the Department of Commerce.
Chairman Brown, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. What we have here is House Bill 526, and what this does, it just does a one-time appropriation of transfer of $5 million from the 21st Century Fund to the Alabama Department of Commerce to help stand up some additional overseas offices, trade offices.
And we have an amendment.
I've got the amendment.
The amendment I'm passing out is the correct one.
All right.
Co-Chair Blackshear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ms. Hall, specifically for you, I will read it since you just got it, so we can go through on the amendment for you on that. We go down and look, replace lines 64 through 77 On page 3, we're striking 16, 7, those lines there in red. Where we'll be adding, if amounts in the specific fund are no longer needed to pay obligations of the Alabama 21st Century Authority, the authority must maintain no less than 1.3 times the maximum annual debt service payable to all authority obligations. Funds in excess, therefore, may be used for the following: to pay for project and project's costs as defined in section 41-10-541, to pay debt services on bonds issued by the Alabama Incentives Financing Authority. 3, for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025, and one-time transfer of $5 million from the Alabama 21st Century Fund to the Alabama Department of Commerce for the establishment of international offices, enhancement of rural development projects, or that would be development strategies, and the cover operational personal expenses. C, in addition to any use permitted by law, the funds of Alabama 21st Century Authority may be used in a manner consistent with this article and determined by resolution of the authority.
That last paragraph was added in the new one. I put it in front of you.
Yeah, this is new amendment.
This is it. Yeah, I have QNHE 214-1.
Here's another copy if you don't see it. It has that last paragraph, the new one does, from what you have in your packet.
Give you a minute to look at it. Any other questions about the amendment? Do I have a motion on the amendment? Motion, second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Your amendment's adopted. Any other questions? We're back on the bill. And this is just temporary funding, really.
Correct.
I know that I think you're involved in it, and Chairman Witt, to sustain that long-term with legislation that's moving now.
Correct. It's just the funds to transfer over to get that
Good, good.
going off the ground.
I'll entertain a motion. So moved. Second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bill receives a favorable report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
members.
Thank you. And I think final bill, Ms. Harper.
House Bill 529 by Representative Faulkner, taxation on vapor products provided for.
Chairman Faulkner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. I don't like that word tax. I know y'all don't either. But the reason for this bill, for me, is to get enforcement, to get our handle on this, to protect our youth. Illegal consumer vape products like Kang Vape and Elf Bar are rampant in Alabama. It's estimated that 80 to 85% of the vape products sold in stores are illegal, meaning they're not on the registry. Right now, there is no money or mechanism for enforcement. This bill will give the Alabama ABC Board the authority to create a new license fee to have enforcement out in the field. Even with the vape directory administered by the Alabama Department of Revenue, there's a great amount of illegal activity. This bill creates a tax of 10 cents per milliliter of vape product tax levied. It provides a tax in addition to all other taxes, retail sales tax being one of those, and repeals all local taxes. Now, let me say there are I'm aware of one county that has passed a constitutional amendment and has a vape tax. And I think one of our colleagues is bringing a bill for their county in this session. I would accept language to carve out local governments who already have a vape tax in place. But the purpose of this bill is we don't want to have different rates all over the state. This needs to be a uniform thing. The tax distribution will be 50% to the state general fund, 25% to each county on a population basis, and 25% to each municipality on a population basis. The licensing requirements and penalties mirror a non-registered tobacco seller failing to obtain a tobacco account. Failure to report and penalties will mirror the Wholesaler to Retailer Accountability Program, WRAP, already in place, and monthly returns will be due to the Alabama Department of Revenue on the 20th of each month. Violations will prohibit further business and prosecution by the Attorney General. The ABC Board or any law enforcement officer can confiscate untaxed vape products. 32 states have, at least 32 states have a tax on vape products, including Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, and I believe Florida. There is an amendment that I believe Representative Mooney will bring that's going to add some clarifying language and provide that Alabama will automatically follow federal law.
Representative Mooney, let's go ahead and adopt the amendment, sir. You want to discuss the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, it adds clarifying language that verifies the alternative nicotine product was on the market as of April 14, 2022, that the non-tobacco derived product was properly filed and accepted by the FDA deadline of May 14, 2022. This is mirroring federal. The product remains under review by the FDA. Verifies those three in order to be on the registry, and then it provides that Alabama will automatically follow federal law.
Very good. Any questions on the amendment? Entertain a motion on the amendment. Moved and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that we've adopted the amendment. Back on the original bill, any committee members have a question? Representative Easterbrook.
You said of the tax collected, 50% would go to the state, 25% to the county, and 25% to the municipality.
Based on population.
What happens when there's no municipality?
Accordingly.
Just be distributed pro rata across the state.
So this is not based on where they collected the tax?
That's correct. It's going to be distributed evenly based on population.
Okay, thank you.
And we currently do fund some enforcement out of the general fund, so this is much needed revenue. Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
Representative Bracey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Faulkner.
Yes, sir.
I'm for the bill. I guess it just, some issues that I have is when we start putting things in place that prohibits local government from being able to function the way that they feel they ought to be able to function. You know, by saying we're going to prohibit you from being able to add any vape tax locally. You know, why do we feel the need to continue to just kind of take away home rule and not allow them to do that? I understand you said that you want it to be uniform across the state, but at the same time, we don't do that for our local school systems. You know, we give money to our local schools, and we allow our local school systems to raise additional money for their own communities. And I just want to know, why do we feel the need to do that?
You know, what I hear is that it's very problematic for people to comply with different tax amounts and different taxes in different areas. So it just seemed like a way where to keep uniformity, to not have to comply with different levels of tax, that we just make it uniform. And, but I mean, I hear you, Representative Bracey. I mean, I think this is an area where it makes more sense for it to be uniform. And that's why I said, if I know Blount County is the only county that has it, I think. And, you know, I'm willing to say, hey, they've got it in place. But I think like Representative Stubbs had won this session, and he's like, you know, I'm going to change my bill to be may. And so, because he doesn't know that they'll want to do it, that they'll want to impose a tax locally. But I think to directly answer your question, I think it's about not having to comply with different rates in different places where these products are going out around the state. Wholesalers trying to do that and figure out what's the tax they've got to collect for the state.
You know, but I guess I would think that the tax would be more about the local municipality. I guess, so a person that wants to do this, they probably go to the same store all the time. It doesn't matter, you know, that's where they're comfortable, they're creatures of habit. It doesn't matter if it costs 10 more cents here, or am I going to drive an extra mile to go to another store? I'm probably going to use the store convenient store close to where I live. So I don't see it being that big of a deal, but what I do see is that we're taking more tools out of the local toolbox by doing this, even though we're saying that we're going to allow them to do some things, do some splits, you know, to get some money back. But that's just the only concern I have with it. Besides that, I think it's a very needed bill.
Well, thank you. And as I said, my biggest impetus is to get enforcement. There's so many illegal products. And that's my main driver behind the bill, but I'm open to talk to anybody about your concern and your issue.
Representative Blackshear.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mine may be on the same line as Representative Bracy. It's been a long day, so my numbers aren't actually adding up right now, so help me with this then. I understand what you're trying to do, standardizing this, because number one, there is no vape tax anyway that comes to the state currently today, and it's a growing problem. Is this tax on top of, like my municipality has a 9.75 sales tax. Would this be on top of that when they go in? Or are you going to take that away and replace it with just this?
No, we're not. We're not touching the sales tax. Sales tax is whatever it is. Cities keep that. They're in control of that.
Yeah,
I'm currently getting that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure they're getting. I mean, because I mean, I appreciate what you're trying to do. I'm support this. I wish we could just make it higher, because we need to find some way to make these people quit using the vapes, especially somehow buying them and get them to our younger kids, if I'm being honest about it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Hall.
Thank you, Representative Blackshear.
I think I may have it. Recently, we had a bill that was new. It was dealing with cigarettes, and I think and this is just with vaping. Doesn't have anything to do with the new cigarettes and that you know, the ones that not quite on the market, that requires you to you have to admit that you're a smoker or not a smoker when you get into that particular agency. So this is not a pushback on that, because there were some concerns raised
Yes,
about taxation on it. I'm just trying to make sure that's not where we're headed.
Yeah, this is separate, Representative Hall, and it is on vape products. And you know, in the bill, you'll see the separation there between this type of product and a tobacco product, for example.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure. Thank you,
Representative Mooney.
I'm very glad to try to help you in the process of protecting children. You know how important that is to me with 12 grandchildren. Obviously, there are various reasons for amending bills. I wanted to help you take away objections to your bill. If I could have it my way, there would be none of this out there. But I just want to be clear that sometimes we have to try to support stuff to make it stronger, to keep it away when it's already in a legal process. But it's just, it's devastating to lives. It's devastating to lives.
Thank you, Representative.
Representative Eastbrook.
So the money that's collected for this is going to be used for enforcement of the law? And what's the consequences if they catch them selling something that's not on the registry?
Well, so the permit fee money would go to the ABC for enforcement. That's what that piece is for. And then the tax is going to the general fund, and well, half of it, and then half to cities and counties. But Yeah, it's got the violations. It's the same penalties that will mirror the wholesaler to retailer accountability program that are already in place.
So they are defined what the penalties are.
That's right. That's already in there. And yes, sir.
We currently fund enforcement at $450,000 annually. I did reduce that number this year because knowing this legislation was coming.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question. This is an addition to the regular sales tax. So if your sales tax 9%, if it's 10, it's still going to be that. This is a fee on the wholesaler, right? So it's an additional fee that but they'll be collected at the wholesale level.
It will be.
Okay.
And it is a tax on the vape products. This has nothing to do with sales tax. Whatever you do on sales tax is totally separate.
One other question: how does it compare to the other states that are already doing this? What rate?
Great question. About the same. Yeah. Sorry, Bill.
Nothing more, nothing less, about the same.
There's no further questions.
I'm a little short
motion.
on knowledge today on this one.
The sponsor, I'll make a motion.
Motion, do I have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Your bill receives the fair report.
As amended.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
As amended, sir.
Thank
Not
you, sir.
much to stump him on. He can always talk.
All right, got through just in time for the Boys and Girls Youth of the Year event in room 325, aren't we, Miss Hall? Thank you, members. We stand adjourned.